Hello and welcome to this special episode of Across the Balkans dedicated to the anniversary of the Srebrenica genocide. I'm Nafisa Latic. This week marks 29 years since the Bosnian Serb army butchered and killed more than 8,000 Muslim men and boys in and around the town of Srebrenica during the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The remains of their bodies have been found in dozens of mass graves in hilly and forested areas in the country's east. The killings happened even as Srebrenica was deemed a safe zone under the protection of the United Nations. This year's anniversary comes just months after the UN General Assembly declared the 11th of July an annual day of remembrance of the genocide. Every year, new victims are identified and given a proper burial. Alija Mustafić is not among them this year, but his mother Nura says she still believes she will find him one day. Claire Herriot reports from Srebrenica.
The cemetery at Srebrenica is a solemn, quiet and peaceful place. Row upon row of white headstones line a sloping hillside, every last one of them marked with the same year of death, 1995. Nura Mustafić's husband and 3 sons were killed in the genocide that year, but the name of her middle son, Alija, isn't on one of the hillside tombstones because his remains were never found.
Vičem da mi je da nađem, ja ako ga ne nađem, ne stavim ništa, kada ga nisam imala. Oni tako izbriču to, niste imala svoje dijete, jer bismo rađali svoju djecu sa imenom i prezimenom. I ako ne nađem, onda nema. A kažem, ja hoću da mi stavim ništa, da znate da sam imala svoje dijete. Njihovo 4 nema, ni šćer, ni unučeta, 29 godina. Niko ne zove ni mama, ni neno, ni ništa.
29 years ago, Ratko Mladic's Bosnian Serb troops separated Muslim men and boys from their wives and mothers, and most, like Nura's husband and sons, were never seen again. In an attempt to cover up the scale of the killing, the soldiers dug up the mass graves and scattered the remains across several sites. In 2007, the International Court of Justice recognised the violence as genocide. It happened under the noses of a poorly armed, poorly equipped and poorly run UN peacekeeping mission.
This is the first anniversary since the UN voted to declare July 11th an annual day of remembrance for the Srebrenica genocide. In May, member states voted 84 to 19 to carry the proposal, and there were 68 abstentions. Victims' families have told us that the vote being carried has made them feel less alone in their grief, and it's important to them that the date now has international recognition. But not everyone's pleased, and the effect of the vote being carried has been to highlight tensions within Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Milorad Dodik, the Bosnian Serb leader, repeatedly denies the genocide and threatens the secession of Republika Srpska from Bosnia and Herzegovina. Nura cares little for what Dodik has to say.
Oni znaju ovo, ne mora njima niko, on kad vidu trebaju da se stide, ovo nije niko izmislio.
Her life's wish is one day to be able to lay her son to rest with his father and brothers in the cemetery on the hill. Claire Herriot, TRT World, Srebrenica.
Every year, thousands of people from around the world come together for the annual Peace March in memory of the victims of the Srebrenica genocide. It usually begins in Nezuk, a village in eastern Bosnia, and lasts for 3 days and ends in Potočari, where the remains of those who are identified so far have been buried. Participants from around the world use the forested road used by men and boys who were trying to escape from the Bosnian Serb army to the free territory. Only a few survived this death march in the summer of 1995. One of the survivors is Čamil Duraković. He is the vice president of the entity of Republika Srpska, and he joins us now. Mr. Duraković, thank you for your time. Now, 29 years ago, when you were running for your life, what was going through your mind?
Well, I was 16 years old at the time, and for me, I was as young not to be capable of making decisions on my own. So I followed my uncle, and he had 2 sons with him, so I followed them to go through the mountains to safe area of Tuzla. So I didn't decide to go to Potočari to surrender. Rather, I decided to go with my uncle, and unfortunately, all three of them did not survive that trip, and I'm the only one who actually did. It was really confusing. I was scared because I was young. I was not understanding the total situation. All I've seen is the chaos that we had to survive. So for me, that was the toughest time in my life, actually, to to just go through that and live after I've lost my family members.
Did you know any of the people that have been identified so far?
Well, each year I always have somebody that I know because there's a lot of my schoolmates, friends, cousins, and people that I knew. So each year when we have burial, I know somebody. This year I know one of my, let's say, cousins, not the close cousins, but the cousins that I know. His name is Haydn. He was my age. There's no victim that I actually don't know or that somehow I'm not connected to them. So each family here in Srebrenica has some kind of a connection with each victim that was killed in genocide in 1995.
And now, Mr. Durakovic, you have to live and work with those who deny that genocide even took place in Srebrenica. How challenging is that for you?
Well, that is the toughest uh, time for us because we know what happened. We know we cannot bring the past, but the problems that we face today is actually that we still live with those that glorify what happened in 1995. So now, let's say the president of this entity is major genocide denier in this country, and I'm his vice president. So for me, it's really tough. As a surviving victim, you have a boss, let's call it a boss, who actually denies genocide. So for me, maybe this time, like 29 years after everything, is the toughest time to still keep going on with the people that glorify for what happened to us. So that is what we feel frustrated about the most.
And what kind of impact had the UN resolution on Srebrenica genocide? I mean, this is the first anniversary that's being marked after that resolution has been adopted in the UN General Assembly. What kind of impact does that have on you and other survivors?
Well, first of all, a few days ago, I was in Vienna, in Austria, where now we have the official government of Vienna and government of Austria supporting surviving victims of genocide living in Austria today and other Bosnians to mark July 11th as International Day of Remembrance. So that was not the case in the past. So most of the Western countries now officially either they have commemorations committed to anniversaries of genocide. So it changed and it will change in the future more and more. Now the United Nations proclaimed July 11th as International Day of Remembrance. So that is official now based on the resolution they adopted recently. So for us, not only for us in Bosnia, but for the whole humanity, it will mean as a historical turning point where there's no way back.
Do you think there will be more progress in reconciliation, and will this have any impact to on your neighbors that, as you just mentioned, are still denying this truth?
Well, adopting this resolution was a big chance for Serbia. Unfortunately, official Serbia, when I say Serbia, the government of Serbia and government of entity of Republika Srpska did not use this opportunity and historical chance to actually join the rest of civilized world. What they try to do now is they try to deny everything, and I don't know for how long will they last and sustain trying to oppose the whole world. Sooner or later, we're waiting for them. It's not our obligation. We're here. We are 29 years after here. We still are on the side of the truth. We will never give up. It's up to Serbia and Republika Srpska generally to actually join the rest of the civilized world. If they want to become, let's say, part of European Union, or part of some other international organizations, it will be their obligation to accept the resolution and the International Court of Justice and other international courts' decisions on genocide. So we're waiting for them. For us, we waited for 29 years. We can wait more, but we will never give up.
We will never give up. Chamil Durakovic, thank you so much for speaking for us on Across the Balkans. The UN Srebrenica genocide resolution has ignited tensions in the country. Just days before the anniversary, Republika Srpska soldiers and cadets of the Republic of Serbia Army joined parades in Bratunac and Prijedor. The parades are held every year as part of the commemoration of the sufferings of Bosnian Serbs, but this is the first time Serbian military attended. The two towns are also where some of the worst war crimes against Bosnian Muslims took place and where the largest mass grave, Tomašica, has been discovered. Bosnia's presidency and Ministry of Defense say they never approved the entry into the country of the members of the neighboring Serbian army. I'm joined now by the Defense Minister of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Zukan Helez. Minister, I appreciate your time for us. Mr. Helez, why did the Serbian army arrive in Bosnia and Herzegovina to join this parade just a couple of days before the anniversary of Srebrenica genocide? Who are exactly these cadets, these soldiers, and what will be your response to it?
Prvo da kažem da Ministarstvo odbrane Bosne i Hercegovine nije dobilo nikakav zvaničan papir ili zahtjev od vlasti susjedne države Srbije da kadeti trebaju da uđu u Bosnu i Hercegovinu. To je išlo preko nekih drugih institucija i želim da kažem da mi nismo izdali nikakvo odobrenje da kadeti vojske Srbije ili oružanih snaga Srbije borave na području Bosne i Hercegovine. Međutim, ono što želim da kažem, i ovi koji su učestvovali u tim procedurama vjerovatno nisu znali šta oni planiraju kada uđu u Bosnu i Hercegovinu. Ja želim da kažem da mi imamo saradnju sa oružanim snagama Srbije i da se pripadnici oružanih snaga Bosne i Hercegovine školuju na vojnim akademijama u Srbiji i da je to zvanični akt potpisan između dvije države. Također njihovi kadeti dolaze u posjetu našem ministarstvu, ali se sve to najavi, to je sve u sklopu plana godišnje vojne bilateralne saradnje. Ovo je izvan toga bilo i mi nismo željeli da učestvujemo u tome i evo oni su napravili šta su napravili. Mislim da su zlopotrijebili sve one koji su im dali dozvolu da uđu u Bosnu i Hercegovinu i otišli su u Prijedor gdje je počinjen genocid. Istina nije presuđen, ali skoro pa identično se dešavalo u Prijedoru kao što je u Srebrenici. Ubijane su cijele porodice, nekoliko hiljada Bošnjaka je ubijeno u tih ratnih godina prilikom agresije Srbije na Bosnu i Hercegovinu i tu nisu nam mogli gore i lošije uraditi kao komšije. Sad se pokušavaju pravda da su to ne naoružani vojnici, da su kadeti, da je to obrazovanje i tako dalje, ali mi to ne možemo nikako odvesti i ne možemo oprostiti na onome što su radili.
In the wake of all these developments and the tensions we are seeing since the UN adopted Srebrenica genocide resolution, is the security of Bosnia and Herzegovina under threat?
Pa pazite, prvo da kažem da je nama jako drago i ponosni smo što je svijet konačno uvidio i što je najveća svjetska instanca kazala da se desio genocid i zato će se to obilježavati u cijelom svijetu, tamo gdje su urađeni demokratski procesi, gdje su države ustrojene po demokratskim standardima. Naravno, vidjeli smo da ima i oni koji to negiraju, gdje su totalitarni režimi i tako dalje, ali to je zvanično usvojeno i nama je jako drago što je to tako. Što se tiče sigurnosne situacije u Bosni i Hercegovini, mislim da je Bosna i Hercegovina sigurna. Tu imaju po Ustavu oružane snage koje garantuju cjelovitost, teritorijalni integritet Bosne i Hercegovine, suverenitet, naravno. Imaju policijske agencije koje prate to. Zatim imaju snage EUFOR-a koje su pojačane nedavno, prije 2 mjeseca. Bataljon oružanih snaga Francuske je došao kao pojačanje u Bosnu i Hercegovinu. Također imamo izaslanstvo NATO-a u Bosni i Hercegovini ovdje. Imamo stalnu konekciju sa NATO savezom, tako da mislim da je Bosna i Hercegovina jako sigurna i stabilna država. Međutim, stalni ataci, verbalni, od strane rukovodstva i režima Srbije i Milorada Dodika, naravno stvaraju zebnju i nesigurnost kod građana, ali evo ja i ovom prilikom želim da poručim građanima, potpuno funkcionišu demokratske institucije Bosne i Hercegovine i spremni su da zaštite suverenitet, teritorijalni integritet i cjelovitost naše države Bosne.
The timing of all these events is extremely interesting. It's challenging for Bosniaks who live in the Republika Srpska entity to go ahead with commemorations and bury their loved ones every 11th of July, having in mind all these security issues. You went personally to Srebrenica just recently to pay respect to the victims. What was the main message you wanted Bosniaks to hear from you?
Pa da, ja sam posjetio građane Srebrenice, imao sam sastanak sa brojnim udruženjima gdje sam razgovarao, ljudi se boje se pogotovo noću, nesigurno je, udaljena mjesta od Srebrenice i tako dalje. I oni koji bi trebali da štite to je policija ili MUP Republike Srpske, oni to nekako rade neprofesionalno, tako da ovi naši građani, pogotovo povratnici koji se tamo žive i rade i bore se, osjećaju neku nesigurnost. Međutim, ono što želim da kažem, to sam i njima rekao, sve ono što sam u prethodnom pitanju nabrojao, a rekao sam da u svakom trenutku mogu računati na podršku institucija Bosne i Hercegovine i upravo poslije mog boravka 2 dana održavala se sjednica vlade Republike Srpske u Srebrenici, a istog dana sam ja bio sa zapovjednikom NATO saveza za Europu i američkih snaga, generalom Kabolijem, i zajedno smo tamo sjedili kad je nadlijetao avion iznad Srebrenice i bilo je jako mirno. Tako, ovim činom sam želio da poručim da je Ministarstvo odbrane i oružane snage uvijek uz te ljude koji su se vratili tamo, onako kako što nam Ustav dozvoljava. Naravno, tu su i brojne policijske agencije koje brinu o civilima i poručujem im da se ne brinu, da budu sigurni. Naravno, ovo sve ide iz centara moći, to je jedna linija, režim Putina, režim Vučića i režim Milorada Dodika. Oni stvaraju tenzije, oni imaju svoje pipke, tako da kažem, i u Vijeću ministara i u Parlamentarnoj skupštini Bosne i Hercegovine, vrše obstrukcije na putu Bosne i Hercegovine ka Evropskoj uniji i NATO savezu, i mi smo toga svjesni i mi s tim rizicima i radimo, živimo i djelujemo, naravno.
How significant is for Bosnia and Herzegovina to upgrade its military arsenal? You've recently announced the arrival of 4 combat vehicles from Turkey to Zenica. Tell us more about the military cooperation Bosnia has with Turkey and how important is Ankara's support?
Pa ja želim da naglasim da imam izvanrednu saradnju sa ministrom odbrane Turske i neke stvari što su ranije dogovorene, mi smo jednostavno ubrzali to. Turska je izdvojila više miliona dolara za pomoć oružanim snagama i prvo što bismo trebali da uradimo, potpisali smo 4 transportera borbena koja bi trebala sukcesivno da dolaze u Bosnu i Hercegovinu. Zatim obnova infrastrukture na lokacijama oružanih snaga, rekonstrukcija tenkova gdje su došli stručnjaci iz oružanih snaga Turske, gdje su obučili naše majstore koji će to raditi dalje i dopremili su određene dijelove, repromaterijal za popravku transportera i tenkova, tako da svakim danom stavljamo u funkciju sve veći broj oklopnih vozila. To sam samo dio nabrojao, naravno neke stvari smo dogovorili koje ne želim javno da iznosim i mislim da će oružane snage Bosne i Hercegovine nakon realizacije jednog dogovora imati nešto što nema ni jedna ova država na zapadnom Balkanu.
Minister Helez, thank you for speaking to us on Across the Balkans.
Hvala vama, bilo mi je zadovoljstvo.
What happened in Srebrenica has changed entire generations in Bosnia. It has become a part of not just personal, but a collective memory and identity of people in Bosnia and the Balkans as well. I'm joined by Marko Milosavljević. He is the head of research and advocacy at the Youth Initiative for Human Rights in Serbia. Well, that's the organization which sent a letter to the UN in support of the genocide resolution. Marko, great to have you with us on Across the Balkans. Now, when I, as Bosnian Muslim, heard that your organization has sent this letter to the UN, I must say, after a long time, I was hopeful about the future in the Balkans and in the region. How much support does your initiative actually have in Belgrade?
Firstly, thank you for having me. And to answer to your question, I will say that Our work is not based on how much we got support in Serbia on the global level, but our work is based on the principle of respecting the victims of the war crimes. This is also the case with Srebrenica genocide, which is one of the most crimes who is most denied from the government and from the political figures in Serbia. People who are behind this letter to the General Assembly President of UN is basically the young activist from Serbia, and we are gathered more than 100 people who are participating in our activities. We saw this resolution as a consequence of more than 25 years of denial of the genocide of Srebrenica, firstly from the government of Serbia and the government of Republika Srpska entity of Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also we see this political document as one of the instruments or actually mechanism for a peace and reconciliation in the region. And to add to this, we saw that also this resolution as crucial document for condemning any kind of glorification of war criminals in the region, but also in the world, and reminding the countries, members of the UN, to prosecute the war crimes globally in the world. So from the war crimes in Gaza to Ukraine and Syria or South Sudan, but with the focus on genocide in Srebrenica.
Marko, you're also organizing the 11th of July commemoration in a park that's very interesting, in a park close to the Serbian presidency. What are the chances that your message are coming through to the government of Serbia?
Each year we are informing the ministries and the government, and we are calling them because it's their duty to be not only present on commemoration in Srebrenica, in Potočari, or in Belgrade, because of moral responsibility, but also because of these laws in Serbia, because Serbia still have the Declaration of Assembly from 2010, who is condemning the crimes in Srebrenica, but not calling them as a genocide, but with the sentence who is actually confirming the verdicts of International Court of Justice from 2007, because sadly Serbia is still only one country or member of the UN who is actually responsible for not preventing the genocide generally. And that verdict and many others actually is the base for these kind of commemorative acts for representatives of government and President of Serbia. Of course, we are aware that after and before the adoption of this resolution, so especially in April and in May, there was a strong denialism campaign by the government of Serbia, and many people from the world can actually saw that.
But is it possible that this state apparatus in your country is so powerful that your nation has been kept in denial despite the international verdicts and now the resolution as well?
This denialism is imposed by the state, and there is a few evidences for this. So this is not the general opinion of the people in Serbia. Majority of them still don't know actually what happened in July of 1995 in enclave of Srebrenica. And in Žepa too. We did one research about stands of the young people in Serbia and also asked them about their knowledge about Srebrenica genocide, and 38% of them said that they are claiming that there was a committed genocide in this area. So it means that actually that government of Serbia and the main coalition led by Serbian Progressive Party is actually imposing denialism and using them as a main political tool to gain more power and to be to ruling the country. And our message is actually to the oppositional leaders and to the democratic forces in Serbia is actually to confront with that policy. And we need political support to have commemorative events, to have at least one memorial, not only in Belgrade but in Serbia, and to continue with prosecution of war crimes in Serbia about genocide in Srebrenica.
And just briefly, Marko, I do want to conclude this episode with the question about the future of this region. Can we expect the future generations in Bosnia and Serbia will try better to communicate and accept the past and move forward towards better future?
The better future will be if we will find will and I will say efforts to make a joint exit from the circle of collective victimhood approach that all of the governments in the region are using as a political tool. So solidarity is the way how we are, and empathy, that's the way how bright future will be for the region.
Marko, thank you so much for being our guest on Across the Balkans.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this special episode of Across the Balkans. See you next time. Bye-bye for now.